Hey everybody, this is Kenny C from Chilling with Jeff and Kenny C, and I know it's been a while since I've done these, but it's great to do so. I'm giving you an exclusive interview right here, right now, and my guest at this time is a model all the way from Australia. Her name is Alyssa Warland, and she is joining me right now. How's it going, Alyssa?
Hey, pretty good, Kenny. How are you?
I'm doing real good, and just so people would know, what time is it out there in Australia right now?
Right here, I'm in Melbourne in Australia, and right now it is 11:20 a.m.
Oh, so you just got up pretty much. So,
Yeah,
uh,
pretty much.
yeah, because for people, obviously I've been trying to interview you and Danny for weeks now, and Danny, unfortunately for her, she's unable to join us, but she's always welcome to do an interview with me again. So hopefully,
Mhm.
when all is settled, she can do an interview with me. But I'm happy to have you on, and let's go ahead and begin. And what made you decide to be a model?
Well, that's a kind of a bit of a tough question, I guess. I'd gone through some pretty hard shit in my life, as a lot of people do, and yeah, just eventually went, all right, I've got to try and make myself feel good, and I've got to do something artistic and get some sort of creation going because I'm just feeling really flat. So yeah, I got encouraged by a few friends and my boyfriend at the time, and it just kind of took off.
And I've seen some of your photos on your Facebook, and
Hmm.
you are a alternative model. I guess that's
I
how.
am, yeah.
So,
Hmm.
what made you decide to go that route?
Well, I started off doing a whole lot of portrait stuff and, like nightclub modeling. So the competitions that they have in nightclubs, I don't know if you guys have them in the States as well. Um, but yeah, it kind of got a little bit boring after a while, and I felt like the alternative scene allowed me to create more artistic work rather than just, wandering around on stage in a bikini, which is really boring after a while. So, yeah.
The one thing about alternative models, and I've been fortunate to interview them, is they're unique. They are against the grain. They definitely separate themselves from the mainstream models,
Mhm.
the glitz and the glam. I mean,
Mhm.
and you and Danny and all the alternative models are not shy to push the envelope when it comes to your photo shoots every now and then. I mean,
Definitely.
how do you feel about the perception that alternative models get?
I think it's kind of funny because you see events where you're on a runway, for example, and there are a lot of the conventional mainstream models who are the ones that, you see in the Kmart catalogs, and it's just kind of they're very quiet and reserved. And the last runway show that I was a part of, it was probably six conventional designers and two alternative designers. And while all of the conventional models were getting their makeup done and everyone was being very quiet and, being very respectful to each other, all of us alternative girls were in a corner blasting out Pantera and headbanging and having a great time. So, you know, it's the people that make it the most fun. And I think in the world of alternative modeling, it's all about having fun rather than being just a coat hanger for someone's clothes. So,
So, what do you think the difference is between the modeling in Australia compared to is what it's like out there in the U.S.?
that's a hard question. I speak to a few different American models every now and then. There is another girl who shares my same name, Alyssa Ann, and she's an alternative model in the States as well. And I think in the States, I'm not sure if it's like here, whereas a lot of alternative models in Melbourne, we're trying to get a lot of work, but nobody's paying and nobody's really willing to give us that sort of extra mile. Whereas in the States, it might be a bit better for them there. It might be easier to get paid work. But I think, the States is turning into just as an alternative place as the rest of the world. So we might all be in the same boat. Who knows?
Absolutely. I guess it took some time for America to embrace alternative modeling, and there are some models out there, that's making a name for themselves, and I pretty much say more power to them. I mean, there's room for them, just like everybody else. Everybody wants to, stand out and whatever, and sometimes it takes some time, but at least the U.S. has embraced the alternative culture. Speaking of traveling, models, they travel. Do you, considering you out there in Australia, do you ever get a chance to travel to network with people, or do some photo shoots?
It's really hard when you're a model traveling from overseas and no one in the destination country that you're heading to really knows about you. Because in that destination country, there's almost always going to be hundreds of other girls that are willing to be shot as well. So I traveled with my fiance to Europe last year and did get in touch with a few photographers, but I had a lot of them pull out at the last minute because they just weren't sure about who I was or what sort of style I was going with. And, this is after I'd gone to all the effort of speaking to designers and getting outfits sorted, and it was a really hard time. So I do like to travel, but generally it's just locally that I travel to get shoots done with the local photographers in areas like Sydney or Canberra here.
That's awesome. Considering you've been in Europe, that's cool. What was the experience like being in Europe?
Beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful places in the world. We did a lot of really crazy things, so yeah, lots of fun. Especially for 2.5 months on holiday. It was great.
Well, that was a lengthy holiday, I'll tell you.
Definitely.
So obviously the reason I've heard of you is through a fellow Australian model, Danny Lugosi. I've interviewed her a couple of years ago. Very nice, down to earth, cool lady. And from my understanding, y'all two are trying to work out some collaborations. It could be photo shoots, it could be events. If you can, tell us a little bit about what you and Danny have in store.
Well, it's all kind of a little bit up in the air at the moment. We're both very busy girls, so trying to get a couple of photo shoots set up, as Danny and I are both on the professional level of alternative modeling here in Melbourne. We're just looking to see who's interested in working with us to begin with. And again, searching for that, long lost paid photo shoot that everyone seems to be looking for. So we're giving ourselves a bit of a challenge by doing it and working together. So it's nice to be working with someone who's very like-minded and who's trying just as hard as I am to get more work.
Dear Australian photographers and networkers, you have two beautiful models. They're joining forces. They want to make big moves. They want to make things happen. Please make it happen. Book these ladies.
Come on, come at us. Shake it up.
I mean, I get it. Maybe y'all got your hands full. Maybe you're not familiar with their work, but just give these ladies a look. Give Danny a look. Give Alyssa a look. You won't be disappointed.
Not at all.
No. So in addition to the collaborations with Danny, you said before we got on to do this interview that you have
hmm
other projects in the works. Why don't you talk about those?
I have a few different projects in the work, but as I do a lot of sort of alternative artistic work, it kind of comes and goes. I've been looking at working with a couple of big names here in Melbourne, including Mad Dame and Greg D. So we're working on a few different concepts together and trying to get more of the artistic side of the alternative modeling than just the portraits or the lying in bed in lingerie sort of stuff. It's got to be a little bit more creative to float my boat.
And how do you feel about these projects you have? What's your mindset now that these projects are going to happen?
I think it's pretty good. I like to sit and think about them quite often actually, and sometimes brainstorm and get things written down and try and develop the ideas a bit more. When you're working with a team as well, it's a lot easier because you've got a lot more heads being put together to try and come up with a lot more ideas. So when I'm working with a pretty decent solid team, that always makes me feel a lot more comfortable about the whole thing.
That is awesome. So if you are in the Australian area and even American area, because I know you're gonna post this info on your Facebook and
Definitely.
social media sites. Make sure y'all check out Alyssa Warland. Keep an eye on her. Check out her Facebook fan page for more info on her projects, including with Danny as well. Um, models, entertainers, celebrities. Some have influences, some don't. But in your case, do you have any influences? And if so, who are those that maybe you looked up to, someone that you inspired to be, anyone that stands out to you that made you want to be a model?
I think the main person who definitely inspired me to be a better model and to always be working towards a big goal would probably be Adriana Lima. So she's one of the Victoria's Secret angels. I remember seeing her on the runway and just, she is just flawless. And yeah, she was just so powerful in the way that she held herself. And even in photo shoots where she's, barely any makeup, really minimal clothing, she just really held her own and she's got this power behind her and she's just, yeah, definitely one of my idols.
How about that? Adriana Lima. I mean, I have watched some of the Victoria's Secret shows and on TV, and yes, she does look beautiful.
She's pretty amazing.
And here's the thing with models. I guess they're under a microscope. I mean, you gotta be in good shape. You gotta have a nice figure, and
hmm
that comes with a lot of pressure from photographers, from promoters, things like that. I mean,
hmm
how do you handle the scrutiny, the nitpicking that comes of being a model?
I think it's a little bit easier for me being an alternative model because the photographers in the alternative scene are very aware that the girls are not tiny and, they're not really tall. We come in all sorts of shapes and sizes and, experience levels, and everyone is just more of a community, so everyone really looks after each other. So if, for example, I was struggling to find work due to my size, or maybe, I've got a few tattoos, maybe I don't have enough tattoos. So, you've just got to take it all with a grain of salt and just be like, well, maybe you don't want me. That's fine. That's your loss. The next person will, though. So you just got to, keep your head up and keep moving forwards. Otherwise, you'll just end up getting stuck, not going anywhere, which is not good for anybody.
Absolutely, and I guess it's important for models to stay true to themselves, to know what they're getting themselves into before you
Mhm.
go through what a photographer or promoter or anything else particular, what are some goals that you would like to set for yourself? More magazines, maybe more traveling at some point. Anything particular? What do you consider as more goals you want to set for yourself?
I think I'd definitely like to travel a bit more and start utilizing a lot of the other photographers that are around the world, because there are some pretty amazing people out there. Um, Definitely want to do a lot more runway work because that is a lot of fun. I always end up having a lot of fun with the girls on the runways. And yeah, creating more of basically more art and having something that I can really be proud of and look back on when I'm, 70 years old and just be like, yeah, I rocked that. Look at me go.
Those are some good times just to look back and say, damn, I look good back then, you know?
I know, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a model, but look, we gotta boost our egos every now and then. It's all for fun. I mean, sometimes you can't, the last thing people need to do is take themselves too seriously.
Definitely.
Just fall back, relax, focus on the task at hand. You mentioned like maybe 15, 20 seconds ago, you talk about tattoos, and I guess for some models with tattoos, photographers may say we're gonna need to remove those tattoos. We may need to brush those tattoos or things like that. Have you ever dealt with a photographer that maybe they want to shoot photos with you because of your tattoos or piercings, anything like that?
I've had a couple, and mainly they're people who are focusing on shooting tattoos. But at the same time, I've also done, I've got my left rib cage. I have a geisha tattooed on there, and I did a shoot a while ago where you could see quite a lot of my midriff, and I was facing to the right, so you couldn't see my tattoo. And then as soon as I turned to the other side where the tattoo was showing, everyone just went crazy, and the photographer was like, no, stay that way, stay looking that way, because you've just got this fierceness on that side of your body with that tattoo, and so we're definitely going to focus on that. So that was an interesting take on it. I don't think I've had anyone else compare my tattoo to that side of my body being fierce, but it was an interesting experience.
I mean, here's my thing. If you're gonna do a photo shoot with a model with the tattoos and you already know beforehand, just go with it. I mean, you're the photographer. Y'all can collaborate, figure it out. It's
There are plenty of girls who don't have any tattoos, so if they want to shoot someone with no tattoos, they can just find someone else. If you've got someone that's specifically after someone with tattoos, they know where to come.
Absolutely. My last question I want to ask you is, what would your advice be to anyone that wants to be a model?
I have a little bit of advice for girls or men, anyone who wants to be a model, really. If you're starting young, be very careful. There are a lot of really crazy people in this world, and unfortunately, when you're someone who wants to start a career in modeling, you're a very easy target. It's generally a good idea to meet people before you go out to the middle of nowhere with them. So the way I started was, having coffee meetings with people and getting them to bring their work so I could see what they were about and how they worked. So it gets you a bit more of an idea of who they are as a person. And, if you're comfortable with them, then you can go on and shoot. If not, then you don't have to. There's no pressure. So you've just got to be really careful about who you're shooting with and just be true to yourself. If someone says to you, these photos are great that we've done, but I want you to get naked now, just because we want to mix it up a bit, if you're not comfortable, don't do it. There's no pressure to do that sort of thing. And people should not be asking that of you anyway, unless you have said that you're comfortable to do it.
Absolutely, especially when it comes to nudity or whatever. It's up to the model. They're the one that's having their pictures taken, and if they don't want to do it, then that's their call. And either the photographer can deal with it, or just find someone who wants to do it. And don't be pressured into doing something that you don't find yourself comfortable in doing. Do you?
Definitely.
Do you? Before we let you go, Alyssa, why don't you go ahead and promote your links, social media links, Facebook, Twitter, or any other links people need to know?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm just on Facebook, so you can find me at Alyssa Warland -model. I'm a freelance Melbourne model, and I'm looking for more work constantly. So if you're interested in working with me, check out my Facebook page, give it a like, and if you like what you see, maybe we can work together.
Absolutely. And again, I want to thank you for joining me here for this interview and bringing such elegance into the interview. And great talking with you, great chatting with you. And again, shout out to Danny. Much love to her as well. You got any final words and shout outs?
Very, very big thank you to you, Kenny, and thank you so much for helping me be a part of this interview. And yeah, big love to Danny. Unfortunately, she can't be here, but she's a great girl. Everyone should definitely check her out, Danny Lugosi.
She's on Twitter at Danny Lugosi, DANILUGOSI. Make sure you follow her and tell her that Kenny and Alyssa sent you.
Yep, super babe, you can't miss her.
Thank you, everyone, for listening, and this will conclude the interview. And